Welcome to episode 526 of AI Brief. I am Amin, and I am joined by my co-host, Leah.
Hey everyone, we have got an incredibly packed deep dive for you today.
We really do. Today, we are unpacking a massive narrative shift. We are looking at Microsoft officially stepping out of OpenAI's shadow to build the so-called agent era on their own terms. Plus, we have a very surprising pivot from the White House regarding frontier AI models and a legendary Hollywood director using AI for his next film.
I mean, if you look at all of these stories together, today's overarching theme is just integration. We are finally moving away from these raw, experimental models and stepping into an era where AI seamlessly slots into, our operating systems, our government policies, and our daily creative workflows.
So to really understand how we got here so quickly, we have to start with the sheer magnitude of the biggest story of the day, which is Microsoft's Build 2026 event. Think back to the very first time you used a graphical user interface. When you finally got to use a mouse to just drag a digital file across a screen.
Oh, that completely changed everything. It made computers accessible to everyday people.
Exactly. Well, before that, interacting with a computer meant memorizing all this obscure code and typing it into a dark terminal. The GUI was a fundamental rewrite of human-computer interaction. And Microsoft is making an identical agent-first hardware and software push right now. They want Windows and Microsoft 365 to be the absolute control layer for intelligent agents.
And the scope of their announcements is just staggering because it represents a total architectural pivot. Let's look at the Microsoft Foundry release. They didn't just drop one massive Omni model. They released the MAI family, which is 7 distinctly specialized in-house models spanning reasoning, coding, image generation, voice, and transcription.
Okay, wait, I need to push back on that right away. For the last 3 years, the entire industry race has been about building the one ultimate massive model, your GPTs and your Claudes, that can do absolutely everything. Why is Microsoft suddenly fracturing their approach into 7 smaller specialized pieces? That sounds like a step backward.
It actually solves a massive bottleneck, which is latency and compute cost. If you just need a model to transcribe an offline meeting securely on your laptop, you don't need a trillion parameter behemoth spinning up in a cloud data center, draining power and bandwidth. You route that specific task to the lightweight transcription model running locally on your device.
Oh, I see. So you are not wasting resources on simple tasks.
Precisely. And meanwhile, if you are doing, say, complex financial forecasting, the system seamlessly routes that to the heavy reasoning model. It is a smart orchestration of models, which is much more efficient than just relying on a monolith.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, especially when you pair it with their new hardware pushes. Because to run all these local models, you need serious horsepower. They introduced Project Solara, which is a platform for agentic devices like badges and desk companions, and also the Surface RTX Spark DevBox. That is a mini PC engineered specifically for heavy local AI workloads.
But the hardware that actually made me stop and rewind the keynote was the Majorana 2. This is a quantum chip, and they claim they are seeing a 1,000 times reliability improvement over previous iterations.
Wait, 1,000 times? That is a massive leap for quantum.
It is, and here is the kicker. They used AI agents to help design the chip. Human engineers have struggled for decades with quantum computing because qubits are incredibly unstable. They collapse if there is, a fraction of a degree of temperature change or a microscopic vibration.
So the AI agents are solving the stability problem.
Basically, yes. AI agents aren't just writing software code anymore. They are running billions of physical physics simulations to find the optimal material lightouts and error correction codes for these quantum chips. They are skipping decades of human trial and error. Because of this, Microsoft has actually moved their target date for a fully usable quantum machine up to 2029.
That is just wild. And bringing it back to the software side, they announced Microsoft Scout, which is their first autopilot agent built on OpenClaw. It runs natively inside Microsoft Teams. Scout doesn't wait for a prompt. It actively looks ahead at your calendar, pulls context from your past chats, and preps your meeting materials proactively.
Which completely redefines what a computer is. We are moving from tools we wield to digital colleagues that work alongside us, but we also have to read between the lines of Microsoft's overall strategy here.
You mean regarding their relationship with OpenAI?
Yes, exactly. By releasing their own in-house MAI models and building Scout on OpenClaw, Microsoft is decisively signaling that they are no longer just an OpenAI distribution partner. They are paving a bold, independent path with these open source agents, and their timing is incredibly strategic here.
Because of NVIDIA, right?
Yes, NVIDIA just had a massive day announcing their own moves to dominate the agentic hardware space, and Microsoft is perfectly timing this to show they are building the software rails for that exact same agent economy.
Now, if the technology is moving so fast that AI is designing quantum chips and actively managing our schedules, the government is scrambling to figure out how to put guardrails on this. And that brings us to a massive and quite surprising update out of Washington. President Trump just signed a softened executive order concerning frontier AI models.
This is a drastic departure from what everyone expected just a few days ago. The original draft of this executive order had real teeth. It mandated a strict, legally binding 90-day review period for any new frontier models before they could be released to the public.
But hours before the May 21st signing ceremony, that mandatory 90-day hold was completely scrapped. The administration explicitly stated that a strict 90-day window would get in the way of the United States' AI race with China. So instead, the signed order introduces a voluntary 30-day security review for what they are calling covered frontier models.
And they specifically define those as models that government intelligence flags as being highly capable of finding security flaws. You have to look at the immediate context to understand why they are so focused on the cyber aspect.
You mean with the new models dropping soon?
Exactly. Anthropic's Claude Mythos and GPT 5.6 are nearing release. We are talking about models that don't just write malware. They can autonomously probe networks, find zero-day vulnerabilities, and exploit them without human intervention. The cybersecurity threat is exponential.
But if the threat is that high, I have to play devil's advocate here. What is the point of a voluntary review? If I am a tech CEO rushing to beat a competitor to market, why on earth would I voluntarily hand over my billion-dollar model to the government and delay my launch?
It comes down to soft power and keeping the innovation domestic. Former AI czar David Sachs reportedly fought against the original mandatory draft, and he supported this new 30-day window. The logic is that mandatory regulations often force innovation offshore or into the shadows.
Oh, so it is a carrot and stick situation.
Very much so. It is a voluntary window, but the order also includes an explicit directive for the Department of Justice to aggressively prosecute AI-powered hacking. The government is essentially saying they will not hold you up with red tape, but they want a voluntary front-row seat to the action. It prioritizes the speed of domestic innovation over bureaucratic bottlenecks.
It is a fascinating tightrope walk between maintaining global dominance and preventing a catastrophic cyber event. But it isn't just politicians and tech giants trying to navigate these new models. Traditional artists are also stepping into the arena, and they are setting their own boundaries. Martin Scorsese, one of the most celebrated film directors in history, just went public as an advisor to an AI image startup called Black Forest Labs.
That is a massive cultural signal. Scorsese is using their FLUX AI image model for the pre-production storyboarding phase of his next film.
But he was incredibly specific about the guardrails he is putting on this. He's using it exclusively for storyboarding. So there are no generated actors, no generated sets, and absolutely no AI in the final footage. He actually called the ability to instantly generate storyboards creatively freeing. He noted that since cinema is a young medium, only 125 years old, filmmakers have to be open to how the medium evolves.
This is a highly strategic and frankly brilliant entry point for skeptical filmmakers. Storyboarding is a massive bottleneck in Hollywood. It requires hiring sketch artists, spending weeks translating a director's vision into static images, and constantly revising them.
And it causes a lot of tension with the anti-AI crowd in Hollywood, I imagine.
It definitely will ruffle some feathers. But by using AI to remove that friction purely in pre-production, Scorsese is augmenting human creativity behind the scenes. He isn't threatening to replace union actors. It is a highly stomachable use case that proves AI can be an invisible scaffolding for art.
Okay, so we have Microsoft building the OS layer, the government trying to watch from the sidelines, and Hollywood adopting the tools. But to support all these high-level agents and creative tools, the underlying industry infrastructure is just exploding. Where is the sheer physical computing power coming from to run all of this?
We are literally watching the physical world be reformatted to support the digital one. And the numbers are staggering. Look at Alphabet. They are currently selling $80 billion in stock for one singular purpose, which is to help fund a planned $190 billion in AI infrastructure spending this year alone.
Let me just pause on that number. $190 billion in a single year. That is the GDP of a small country being spent on data centers and cooling systems.
And the physical money is actively matching the software hype. Famed investor Elad Gil recently pointed out that humanity is currently in an early liftoff and exponential phase. He specifically pointed to the models released this past December as having crossed a major technological threshold.
Which totally validates Alphabet's massive infrastructure spend. I mean, they know the software has crossed the Rubicon, so they are paving the roads.
Exactly. Well, we moved from models that could just answer questions to models that can reason and execute multi-step tasks, which is why the rollout of these advanced models is accelerating. Anthropic just expanded Project Glasswing, granting 150 new organizations across 15 countries access to their Claude Mythos preview model.
Wow, so that is moving out of the lab really fast.
It is, and OpenAI just launched massive updates to Codex, adding new role-specific plugins and this feature called Sites, which allows users to create and host websites directly. Plus, we're seeing a total rebrand of the workspace. Cognition rebranded their Windsurf IDE to Devon Desktop. They are creating a single surface to run agents locally or in the cloud.
It seems like the desktop is the new battleground.
It really is. Now Research just unveiled Hermes Desktop natively for macOS, Windows, and Linux. What is crucial here is that Hermes is an MIT licensed agent with persistent memory. It runs in the background, managing tasks across Slack, email, and WhatsApp, and it actually remembers the context of your workflows.
That persistent memory is the absolute holy grail. It means the AI isn't starting from amnesia every time you open a window. It knows what you discussed on Slack yesterday and applies it to the email you are writing today. So let's bring this all together. It is time to bring these massive industry shifts down to the individual user. If you sit down at your laptop today, how do all these trending tools actually weave together into a single workflow? Let's say you have an idea for a brand new business.
Well, a few years ago, launching a business meant hiring a researcher, a videographer, a web developer, a CRM manager, and a sales team. Today, it is just a sequence of agents.
Right, so you start with Microsoft's MEI models. You can route specific tasks locally. For example, using their transcription model to process offline meetings about your business idea, while using their reasoning model for complex data analysis. And if you are handling sensitive financial data for this new venture, you use Hollow 3.1.
Which is H Company's upgraded computer use model. It lets you automate highly sensitive on-device tasks fully locally, so your private business data never has to be sent to a cloud server.
Exactly. And while you were doing all this, you have Hermes Desktop running natively in the background, remembering the context of your Slack messages and emails as you coordinate with your suppliers. But for the actual heavy lifting of the business logic, you deploy SureThing.
That is the autonomous agent that is trending heavily right now.
Yep. You deploy SureThing to handle deep, independent market research on your business idea. And instead of spitting out a spreadsheet, it communicates the results back to you conversationally, like a human colleague would. Once you have your strategy, you need marketing. So you turn to Hera, the AI video creation tool, to generate a studio-quality launch video without needing a camera crew or editing software.
And a video needs a home, which is where that Codex update comes in.
Yes, you open up OpenAI Codex with the new Sites functionality.
Yeah.
You just describe your web app idea in plain English. Codex doesn't just write the code, it instantly hosts the application live on the internet for the public. Now you have a live website generating interest, which means you need back-end operations.
So you use Softar. It is a no-code business app builder powered by AI. You can instantly generate a custom internal CRM and inventory tracker tailored perfectly to your specific product.
And finally, you have to actually sell. So you plug in Orange Slice. This is an AI sales automation tool that handles the tedious parts of your funnel, like drafting personalized follow-up emails to your leads. So you can focus entirely on actually taking the final closing calls.
It is breathtaking when you stack it all up like that. A single user, sitting at a laptop, can string together Hera to create the marketing video, Codex Sites to host the landing page, and Orange Slice to manage the resulting sales leads. You are effectively running a comprehensive business launch autonomously from your desk.
And that is the true meaning of the agent era. We are transitioning from isolated cloud-based chat windows into persistent, autonomous agents living right on our local desktops. Think back to that metaphor of the graphical user interface. The transition from the command line to the mouse changed the world because it made computing visual. It adapted the machine to human spatial reasoning.
But as our computers transform into autonomous agents capable of independent reasoning and proactive action, the machine isn't just adapting to how we see, it is adapting to how we intend to act.
The question for you to mull over today is this. How will your own creativity, your ambition, and your daily productivity change when your tools no longer wait for your instructions, but instead arrive at your desk having already done half the work?
When the friction of execution drops to zero, the only limit left is the scale of your imagination. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the expanding frontier of artificial intelligence. If you found this breakdown valuable, please follow us on your favorite podcast app and share it with your colleagues who need to stay ahead of the AI curve.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will see you in the next episode.